Italy, the Vicentine Prealps, Agno Valley. A group of scholars and researchers linked to the Zannato Museum in Montecchio Maggiore have been out on reconnaissance. For years, they have been coordinating explorations of the quarries, hilly ridges and rocky walls of the Berici and Eastern Lessini Mountains, in search of fossil remains and geological evidence that assist in the reconstruction of paleo-environments. Environments that are extremely ancient and yet, at the same time, ever present in these woods. The research group is made up of paleontologists, geologists, experts and enthusiasts. They form part of an association that, together with the scientific staff of the museum, have made possible the discovery and recognition of a large quantity of crustacean fossils, many of which are now extinct and unique in the world. The synergistic monitoring carried out in the territory by these scholars often transcends the scientific value of their research, serving equally as a testimony and safeguarding of paleontological treasures that would otherwise be condemned to oblivion, or worse, to destruction or illegal trade. The discovery of fossils may seem random, but on the contrary, requires in-depth scholastic knowledge and field experience. The search for fossils is not always profitable. It begins with the books and publications that paleontologists have left us, and from there we go into the territory to search. In this particular case, the process is simpler, because we are in a quarry and the rocky layers have been exposed by excavation. We go to check if indeed, in the various rock layers, there are profitable areas for fossils. In this case, what we have identified is an imprint of a crab, which leads us to believe that here there is the chance of actually finding something interesting, not only from a general fossil point of view, but particularly in regards to crab fossils. The presence of crustacean fossils in the Vicenza area is only evident in certain geological rock layers. The fossils crop up randomly, depending on the morphology of the mountains, the effects of natural events, and the invasive activities of man. The research team was made aware of a landslide that occurred near a rock wall well known to be traversed by a geological stratum with a high concentration of crustacean fossils. The yellowish layer, dating back to the Pre-Ebonian age, is clearly visible from afar and seems to have been affected by the collapse. After an initial surface search, the group proceeds with the systematic demolition of the debris with maximum attention and delicacy. Finally, the team's high expectations are rewarded by the discovery of one of the most prized crab fossils in the area, a Paleocapilius macrocalus. In this case, we were really lucky, because we didn't just find the cast of a crab, but a real three-dimensional crab with an oval-shaped carapace, which is the hard upper shell. From an initial analysis, we can see that the crab has its left calyped on this side, while on the right side the calyped is not visible. This means that it is either missing because it was lost during its lifetime, or it is hidden under the carapace. From the point of view of scientific discovery, this is an extremely interesting find, because the crab has been optimally preserved within a layer of rock from the Pre-Ebonian period, which means that it has been there for 34 to 37 million years. Only one splinter was dislodged, but during the cleaning phase this will be reattached and we will have an intact carapace and an intact crab. There is also a portion of the claw that is visible, however its condition will be better understood and assessed during the cleaning phase. The specimen is wrapped in paper, making sure that the various fragments do not come into contact with each other, in turn risking possible damage to the crustacean. Once freed from the sediment, cleaned and reconstructed, the crab fossil will be entrusted to the Zannato Museum in Montecchio Maggiore. The reconnaissance continues. The group is divided in order to cover as much of the territory as possible. The fossiliferous sites must be regularly inspected and re-inspected as natural erosion and rains, especially when abundant, detach extraneous debris and reveal new discoveries. Surface collection, after rain runoff periods, brings with it the most numerous discoveries. From the breach of a rocky wall, another fossil crab is extracted, apparently intact. Being almost completely immersed in the rock, a careful cleaning in the laboratory will be necessary to reveal its shape and useful classification elements. The 2 specimens are transferred to the laboratory. The cleaning of well-preserved crabs embedded in mixed rock debris is best carried out with brushes, toothbrushes or micro-sandblasters, while in cases of crabs embedded in heavily cemented rocks, robust mechanical tools like awls, needles and microengravers are more effective. During this phase, researchers must be careful not to remove the ornamentation that can be found on the back and the limbs. These details, which are sometimes microscopic, are of enormous importance in determining the species and subspecies. Cleaning does not always confirm the expectations placed on the fossil. In this case, the unexpected absence of the claws and limbs indicates the possibility that it is an exuvia, that is, the result of a periodic change of the exoskeleton. The cleaning of the paleocapilios found in Priabona, meanwhile, proceeds by exposing the one present cheliped, which, it is revealed, is devoid of the end of the fixed finger. Once the cleaning of the abdominal area is completed, the decision is made to recompose the form with the englobing sediment and prepare it for its probable exhibition in the museum. The 2 specimens are ready to be studied and compared with the already known carcinological data. A crab, living or fossil, has composite eyes capable of seeing at 360 degrees, as well as ocular peduncles that are sometimes very long. The carapace is robust and tends to be rounded in shape. The term decapod indicates the presence of 10 limbs, 8 of which are exclusively dedicated to traction. The 2 frontal limbs, meanwhile, whose claws are characterized by a fixed finger and a moving finger, have a trifunctional role, used not only for defense and feeding, but also during courtship. There is a recognizable sexual dimorphism in males, who develop one chela bigger than the other to attract females. The study of crustacean fossils is not always simple and straightforward, due to the fact that it is not always possible to visualize the fossil in its totality, forcing researchers to base their observations on the complex and microscopic characteristics of the animal, as in the case of the exuvia found in Grancona. The specimen in question represents a carapace from the crab family known as Portunidae. It's a shame that the specimen lacks the ventral part, as well as the abdomen and claws, all of which are important for our research. At this point, for the study of the species, which could even be a new species, we will rely on the shape of the carapace, the number of lateral teeth, and the protrusions on the front and back. We will need a good photograph and a good drawing. And on the basis of the small details that this specimen reveals to us, we will embark on a more detailed study. Comparison with living or fossil species is based on the observation of details that are sometimes imperceptible to the naked eye. These details are studied with the help of high-definition photographs and recorded in scientific drawings, which, once published, constitute a real database for the recognition of the species or for the establishment of a new one. The 2 studies conclude that the exuvia is an, as of yet, unregistered fossil species, and that the other complete specimen, found in Grancona a few weeks earlier, belongs to the same species. It really is a Portunidae, one of those classic crabs known as swimmers, like those found in our seas, including the Adriatic. A crustacean that has 2 splendid claws, far more developed than all the other limbs, of which the last is particularly interesting because it looks like a spatula, similar to an oar, making it very suitable for swimming. But this also helped it to burrow. And, in fact, these animals currently live in our seas, partially hidden, at remarkable depths from 0 up to 50 or 55 meters. It must be said that the carapace has a shape that is wider than it is long. It has 9 anterolateral points, the last one being very well developed, and a 5-pointed front, the 2 central points longer than the others, as well as quite evident segments. The eyes are subcircular and reveal 2 incisions. A splendid specimen, as they say, that we will certainly study soon, because it is probable that it represents a new species. The areas in the world that represent the most interesting zones for locating crustacean fossils number no more than 10, including Argentina, Chile, Mexico, Washington State, New Zealand, Lebanon, Holland, Spain, Germany, and Great Britain. In Italy, the deposits found in Udine, Sardinia, Tuscany, the Ligurian Piedmont Basin, and Puglia are particularly important. But it is in the Veneto region, more precisely the area between the eastern Lecini Mountains and the Barici Mountains, where the most concentrated number of crustacean fossil holotypes can be found, boasting a variety of species unique in the world, with origins covering a time span that ranges from the Eocene to the Miocene epochs, 55 to 5 million years ago. During the Eocene period, the area of Vicenza was completely submerged, a shallow sea home to continuous volcanic events and characterized by tropical temperatures, abundant life, and an extraordinary variety of organisms, including mollusks, algae, corals, tropical fish, crabs, sea urchins, and even sharks, as witnessed by the discovery of tooth fossils. In the Oligocene epoch, the Vicenza area was almost entirely a lagoon. During this period, which ranges from 40 to 20 million years ago, explosive volcanic activity led to the formation of islets, such as Castelgomberto, Monteviale and Montecchio, which emerged from the waters and around which crowns of coral deposits developed, housing an abundance of life. Protected to the north by the mainland and to the south by a powerful coral barrier, the sea was warm, shallow, and rich in nutrients. Beyond the barrier, towards Padua and Venice, was the deep sea from which most probably emerged various volcanic islands, which correspond with the present-day Eugenian hills. Perhaps the only evidence of this paleo-environment in the world is the palm trunks found in 2004 at Castelgomberto, a fossil forest comparable to a current tropical forest, with fossilized palm trunks standing in a living position. To immerse ourselves in the seabed of deep time, we descend into the underground rooms of the Zannato Museum in Montecchio Maggiore, where the tropical palms of Castelgomberto and an exceptional collection of fossils from the Vicenza region are exhibited. Specimens include shrimp, lobster, hermit crabs, mantis shrimp, but above all, fossil crabs of all shapes and dimensions. The Lophoranina marestiana, with its elegant shape, slender limbs and small claws, is often considered the queen of crustacean fossils. Here we observe one in a male-female coupling. Some specimens still retain their original colour, a direct line to the current forms found in the warm seas of the Indo-Pacific. One of its key characteristics is its carapace, covered with numerous parallel streaks, which most probably facilitated rapid burrowing into the sandy seabed in moments of danger. The position of this particular specimen of Lophoranina marestiana suggests that the individual animal underwent a post-mortem repositioning. All 8 legs are present, but only 1 claw, suggesting that the missing left claw was most probably torn from the carcass by sea currents. The living form does not display these particular black ridges, but instead has granulations, and therefore appears rather different from the fossil specimen. This frog crab is a large-sized burrowing crab, which can currently be found in the sandy seabeds of the Philippines and Southeast Asia. The Italianira punctulata is very close in appearance to the living Ranilia species. Elegant in appearance, it has an elongated carapace adorned with bumps. The claws are flat, the limbs long and slender. This burrowing crab, perfectly preserved, represents the only example of this kind of extinct crustacean in the world. In the arenaceous volcanic mud, of the Chiampo Valley lived this Leonira Beschini specimen, endowed with a shield-shaped carapace. Here, he would have found food plentiful and would have had to burrow quickly to defend himself from predator attacks. In this area, severely affected during the Eocene period by intense volcanic activity, he would not have been able to escape death caused by the sudden pollution of marine waters. Antonio Ranina globosa is a fossil species that was logged in 1988 and found only in the Vicenza area. Its close relative, Chiotorina granulosa, currently populates the seas of the Ivory Coast. This specimen has one fracture on its carapace, most probably due to currents. During the Pre-Ebonian period, about 40 million years ago, the king of the seas was undoubtedly this Paleocarpilius macrocalus, with its robust carapace and claws developed for incredible power. A strong, rounded, compact crab, with a very low triangular forehead, small eyes and massive claws. Notable its resemblance to the current-day Carpilius maculatus and Carpilius convexus, which populate the Indo-Pacific and the Red Sea. The Paleocarpilius macrocalus could reach a carapace width of over 20 centimeters. This particular fossil specimen appears to be hidden amongst the rocks, awaiting prey. A female specimen of the Paleocarpilius macrocalus is immediately recognizable by the shape of the abdomen, which consists of 6 segments completely folded under the cephalothorax, with an oval shape, unlike male specimens, necessary for egg protection. In the Paleocarpilius aquitanicus specimen, found in Montecchio Maggiore, sexual dimorphism is particularly pronounced. The right claw, folded across the abdomen, is considerably more developed than the left, which instead is open in an exanimate position. The Apicocarcinus macrodactylius appears infrequently in the rock layers of the Venetian Eocene period. The right claw is impressive for its size and power. Each limb is preserved in all its three-dimensionality. The eyes, the thorns, and the hue of the claws exude a surreal vividness. The Apicoxanthopsis quadrilobata from Mount Malo is between 45 and 50 million years old and is considered a guide fossil for the European Eocene period. This species, widespread in muddy environments, was characterized by a strong sexual dimorphism and by the presence of 4 pronounced frontal lobes in the shape of thorns. This magnificent specimen of Latiposia coleata is unique in the world. Originating from the Eocene period in the Chiampo Valley, it has remained intact thanks to an exceptional fossilization process. The particular nature of the englobing sediment and the meticulous cleaning work of researchers allowed for every single thorn adorning the margins of the carapace to be highlighted, as well as the 2 claws and motor limbs. Dozens and dozens of quills constituted a certainly impenetrable defense system. The abundant thorniness and powerful claws recall the Erythia spinifrons, currently widespread throughout the Mediterranean, a direct and persistent thread with a world that no longer exists. Protection and mimicry. This Periocanthus horridus fossil is exceptionally preserved. Frontal plates cover the eyes and long spines protrude from the edges of the carapace, an aspect certainly functional to camouflage amongst seabed vegetation. The very small Spinirostrimaya margaritata of Arzignano, characterized by 2 very long rostral spines, is roughly 50 million years old. It is an extinct crustacean with archaic characteristics. The species is known to have origins only in the Lecini area, as well as during the Eocene period in Spain. Its kinship with both the Mediterranean spider crab and with the Macrochaera kempheri is evident, a true giant of the Japanese seas that can reach 3 meters in length. Crushed carapace and elegant claws, this Nogorolia mirabilis comes from the Eocene epoch in the Chiampo Valley. Unfortunately, this specimen is devoid of its hind legs, which would have had a spatula-like shape, perfectly adapted for swift movement in the water. A skilled swimmer, it was a characteristic species of the shallow seas, and used its 5th pair of oar-shaped limbs for digging and burrowing in the soft seabed, awaiting prey. Directly associated with the current-day Portudini swimming crabs, which are still present in the Mediterranean Sea, its chelipeds are much longer and more robust than the other legs. Other characteristics include sharp teeth and a carapace covered with grainy bumps. The Baldoplax bonizatoi reveals strong similarities with the various Eurocrate species that inhabit the warm tropical seas of Australia and Taiwan. It comes from Mount Baldo and has a particular rarity. Folded inside its eye sockets, its ocular peduncles are still intact. Despite being 50 million years old, it stands out for its notably good state of conservation. The Magecarcinus loxianus of Nogorole is a distant relative of the small Pachygrapsus momoratus, so incredibly rapid in its ability to hide in rock ravines that it has been nicknamed the Run-Run. With its quadrangular carapace, it preferred the rocky coastal environments that were not suitable for fossilization. The existence of this rare specimen leads us to hypothesize that this animal was transported post-mortem from its natural habitat to a different marine environment. The smallest crab in the Zannato Museum collection is the Stevea cesari. Meticulous preparatory work in the museum's laboratory revealed the slender structure of this tiny crustacean. Just like its current-day counterpart, the Hexapodidae, the animal lived inside the annelid tubes and cavities of hydrozoans. Its body would have assumed an elongated shape to allow for easy entry into these narrow cavities, and its hind legs would have been eliminated over time to adapt to this living environment. This small, rounded lobster, discovered in the Eocene rock layers of the Chiampo Valley, is 45 million years old, and delicate parts of its body, such as the abdomen, a few antennae and its long legs, have been preserved. It belongs to the Palinuridae or spiny lobster family, still in existence today, and of which no fossil forms were previously known. It is hypothesized that the transverse ridges which ornament its body helped the animal to sink to the seabed. In 2001, the fossil species was named Justitia vicentina, thanks to the existence of this holotype. The Upogebia perarolensis is a shrimp that was discovered in the early 90s within very fine-grained rocks located in the Berici Mountains that are roughly 30 million years old. This too is a very rare specimen, with its most delicate body parts such as the antennae, slender legs and caudal fin all very well preserved. Such a complete, three-dimensional specimen of a shrimp fossil had never before been recovered in Italy. In recent years, the Veneto region has also revealed interesting stomatopod remains, such as the Squillamantis, more commonly known as the Conocchia, which still lives today at depths of between 5 and 370 meters in the sandy or muddy bottoms of the Mediterranean. The ocular peduncles of this specimen are beautifully preserved, as is the telson and parts of the limbs. A dip in the Vicenza lagoon of the Oligocene epoch would have allowed us to observe an environmental situation similar to that found in the current warm seas of the Indo-Pacific, with its characteristic abundance of corals, isolated, massive, and united to create impressive atolls. In this warm and shallow sea, among the corals and soft marine sediment, many other organisms found refuge, such as the campanile from Montecchio Maggiore, or this large oyster from the Lessini Mountains of Vicenza. sea urchins thrived. With an ovoid shell and flattened lower side, they are immediately recognizable thanks to the unmistakable presence of petal-like bands on their dorsals. Immersion in the aquatic fossiliferous world is a journey into the immanent, a deep look into a chronological abyss that is difficult to metabolize within the context of the concept of time that we have created, relative to human history and linear narrative. Earth's history is more a sea than a river. Time, deep time, is comparable to a dark corridor, devoid of signs that mark a staircase of reference. A few points of light, fossils, cast sudden relief, even if they are not necessarily related to each other. Fossils are an instant and fleeting photograph, a moment from tens of millions of years ago. A meticulous study, shocking in its vivid connection with today. Is the emptiness of our present due to the fact that we find no trace of a beginning and no prospect of an end?